Sweet. So it's good to just understand your thinking behind it, and obviously osmosis, learning through osmosis, should I say, just the same things every week. You guys see that it's not rocket science. There is a formula, there is a structure to it. Yes, obviously there's a lot of skill involved as well, but it's about layering this on top as you continue your journey with your trading. So with that being said, let's jump into this week's pro trade setup of the week, which is on the Aussie US dollar.
Okay, so let's see if I've got a template here. I'm going to just start quickly from scratch. So as always, guys, it's a good idea to look at the higher time frames, get an understanding of what's going on here. So that's the big picture. Okay, so that's really what's happening. So this market's really been going down, downtrend. It has, if we just kind of put a trend line there, that's where that sort of outer trend line comes in. And if we zoom out, again, you can kind of see this was a point in the market. At some point, that was quite a nice line. So I'm just going to use that for a sec. And you can see that was a perfect kind of prediction of where that market was going to react there. And if we just zoom in a little bit more here, we may go and hit this line at some point, but I'm just going to do a couple of things here. That's interesting, right? That sort of support. So yeah, it's kind of reacting on the same angles. So now this is where we are. Okay, so I'm going to just do a couple of more things here, and then I will go down and break it down on the lower time frame. So just give me a sec. Turn that off. I'm just going to check to see where the fibs are coming in. If I can do it with the, hopefully I can do it with this one. So that's kind of telling us like the next swing down is basically down to here, 69.14 on the weekly chart. We have basically done this sort of shallow pullback. We went down to our 127. So the minimum expectancy is for us to come back to this red line. We haven't quite done that yet. I do like that as a possible. I think the market could go back and test this line. So I just wonder whether we can get a potential trade setup to go target that 75.21. Let me do one little quick thing here before I go to the lower time frames. Just want to see where is the 618 on this one. So we are here. The 618 comes in there. 72.45. Is that a good level? Looks okay. 72.45. Okay, let's keep that in mind, guys. I do like that as a potential target up here. 75.21. So I'm going to try and find a setup. So we mentioned those levels, so I'm going to just bring them in. 75.20-ish, around there. Got so close to hitting that. And we'll do another thing, yeah. Okay. Right, let's do one more thing. Let's do the fibs going down. So I just want to see where we are in the cycle right now. Pull back to the 618. It's about there, 75.20. I mean, it's so close that you could almost say that's a hit. That's the only, it's a tricky point, because normally that would be my kind of target. But we've got fairly close to it. So we may not get there. We may not go and hit it. We may push towards that 69.14. The next target down, guys, is here. So that comes in at, on this time frame, it's 68.79. What you can do is you can wait for a counter trend break. So we could take something like this, and we could use that there. And so a setup, one of the ways to play this, a safer way, is like this. If I get the pen out, I'll tell you what you can do. Where is it? Okay. So you could wait for either a pullback where you're basically selling somewhere here. That would be good. Or you wait for the market to break through here and then you sell it, say on a pullback. And that, if you do this trade here, I'd be looking for a 1-to-1. So what I would typically do is I'll take the distance from entry point to target, and I'd just make my stop the equivalent. If we get a pullback though, and we buy up here, your reward to risk is going to be more like 3-to-1. So it just means that your probability is slightly lower, but your reward to risk is higher. I will go down to the 4-hour time frame as well to see if there's anything else that we've got that can help us here. Possibly the up fibs on the lower time frames on the 4-hour. Let me see. They could assist us potentially. Let's have a look. No, the A's been taken out. So there's no assisting us on that. So let me remove that. Down. Okay. So let's just have a little study of this 4-hour time frame. Let's remove, let's go template, plane, and have a look to see what's going on here. So there is some signs here, like if you ever look at the way, look at the way it's gone up. So this has gone up in this sort of fashion. But if you take away if you look at the way it's going down, it's kind of more like that. It's more of a flag at this precise moment. It's not overly bearish, which makes me think that there is a chance we could definitely make an attempt to go higher. Let me see if we can zoom out and just put in our down trend lines. Wow, okay. That was a really good sell, wasn't it, there?
Mm-hmm.
Right on that trend line. And that was I think that was the point where my my hidden line was on the daily. On the weekly, was it? I've lost it now. Well, anyway, the
where that C was, wasn't it, on the daily?
Yeah, but I drew a line. I think I must have deleted it by mistake. That's fine. Yeah. So right now, I at this stage I don't really like this price action. I think the fact that this looks like a flag rather than a downtrend, I would certainly either wait for this line to break before considering any sort of trade. Because I think right now that's a bullish price action pattern. So what you might get, if this is going to push higher, is you might get a break of this trend line. So the ideal would be to short here. Right now, I think if you do get a pullback to say something like there, I would definitely consider taking that as a short, maybe as a double top. So you'd be looking at something like that, spike and then down. And that potentially, as you touch this line, this potential line becomes a buy zone. So I would be thinking about putting some alerts here. But otherwise, you're looking at really this market potentially breaking up and then going higher. So you've got to keep an eye on this. But by the rules, there is a strong chance that this market will go and touch this line. So in essence, looking at this, I'm doing this live, obviously. I wouldn't necessarily take a trade right now unless we go back up to this price point here. If we can hit 75.22, I think that's a good enough short area to make it worthwhile. And then we'll see how it reacts there. Otherwise, if it breaks through, closes above this line here, then we're going to be looking for this to push higher and to target this this next trend line up here. So it's in the middle right now, and we have to let the market show us. Essentially, there's not a setup. There's not an order that I would put in. I would put an alert right now at this zone, and I'd want to see where we are relative to the daily trading range before I take a trade right now. Because you've got mixed signals, essentially. That's the thing.
Awesome breakdown. So that's the Pips Like a Pro trade setup of the week by Mr. Andy Demi. And sometimes it's important just to learn the process. Like, this hasn't been scripted or planned. Literally, he's gone. If you missed the start of the show, we've broken down the psychology behind how professional traders deal with losses. We've given you some tips on how you can start to implement that into your trading. We've then broken down all the big high impact news for FX trading for the week. We've taken that data. We've gone into the live charts to do some analysis. And sometimes it's important to not dive into these things, but just understand the process and understand where the entry points are likely to come if you're looking for high probability, low risk. So the question is, guys, you're watching this now. You're seeing a professional look for high probability, low risk. How does that differ to what you would have done with your trading? And obviously, what little knowledge bombs and tidbits can you kind of take to start to practice and implement with your own trading style? So really interesting, mate. And still, there's still potentially 2 trading setups on the Aussie dollar in play for this week, but they're contingent on hitting those high probability areas that you're looking for. I think that's a fair summary of what we've just done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the thing. It's you know, to it's not that difficult to make money from trading, but yet it is. So it's like, because the things that are not difficult, I guess, are, I think coming to, once you're trained, coming to the conclusions is one side of it, but then it's using those conclusions to do the right thing. So there's no setup, there's no setup. If the ideal entry of the correct entry is 30 pips lower, it has to be 30 pips lower. You can't just get in. It doesn't make sense. And it's one of the most common things that I come across is people not following that because they don't want to miss out. So like maybe you do your own analysis and you find, okay, this is a great trade. I want to buy it. I want to sell it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get in here. And then the market starts to go down and you're like panicked now. And you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to get my setup. So I want to just get in. Don't miss the trade. And the thing is, it's like, that process is what is keeping you a losing trader, even if that trade wins. And I think that's why you have to have a process. And sometimes there's no trade, or sometimes the trade is 50 pips above or 50 pips below. And sometimes you're going to place those orders and the market's not going to get there. And if you just got into the market, you would have made money. But that's all fine. It is part of the game. And the things that are difficult to do are the things that I'm saying, the discipline to just follow the plan, no matter what's happened, no matter what does happen.